Hello, and welcome to the grand final of Watercolour Challenge. During this series, we have travelled thousands of miles, setting amateur artists the challenge of painting scenes from their area. Well, from over 100 artists, we've whittled it down to 3 grand finalists who are with us again today to paint for the winner's prize, which is a wonderful painting holiday for 2 in the New Forest. Well, as always on Watercolour Challenge, the rules are the same. Our contestants have 4 hours to complete their painting before we pick a winner. And today, because it is the grand final, we have 2 special guest judges to help us with the choice, and we'll be meeting them later on in the programme. For our grand final, we've come to Stoner Park, near Henley-on-Thames in Oxfordshire. The house is home to the Stoner family, who've lived here for over 800 years. Fallow deer have grazed in the ground since medieval times, and in the 1530s, the writer Leland described its setting thus. There is a fair park, and a warren of cones, and fair woods. The mansion place standeth climbing on an hill, and hath 2 courts builded with timber, brick and flint. Well, it's a grand setting for our 3 grand finalists. But how will they rise to the challenge? Let's go and meet them. Peter McDermott was the winner of our Highlands regional final with this picture of Cawdor Castle. Earlier this week, he painted this view of Henley's Temple Island to claim a place in today's grand final. Ray Twigg triumphed in the regional final from Lincolnshire with this interpretation of Elton Hall near Peterborough. And he won his place in today's grand final with this painting of Cookham Dean Church. Well, our 3rd grand finalist is Steve Richards. He won the Grimsby regional final by painting Scarborough's South Bay, and he won through to today's grand final with this scene of the rest home for horses at Speen Farm. And it came to pass that on the grand final day of Watercolour Challenge, there satteth down upon the hillside 3 blokes, one in a kilt, the other 2 not. Good morning.
Good morning, Anna.
Are you well?
Yes, thank you.
It is lovely to see you all again. Well, beautiful house, wonderful vista all around you, and, well, the usual rules. Who needs to be told again, but nevertheless, I will repeat it for the very, very last time. 4 hours you have to complete your painting, and your time starts now. And very, very, very good luck.
Thank you. When I arrived this morning and saw that it was going to be this wonderful old house, I was really delighted. It's more the sort of traditional subject that I think makes a really great painting. It's amazing how these old places sit within the landscape. They're almost like ocean-going liners in a green sea. I really don't want to put too much detail in this, so what I've got to be careful of today is not over-painting. What I've learnt being part of the programme is really the need to plan your painting. It's very easy to panic in the heat of the moment and then find you've put a wash on which just shouldn't be there. So planning has been key.
The first thoughts when I arrived here this morning was what a super setting. Came up the hill, I was getting very anxious because it's the height that we're viewing the building from, and it's going to be quite difficult to get over on the painting. I want to try and keep the background fairly neutral. I'm going to try and get some movement in the foreground and focus on the building. Since I became involved on Watercolour Challenge, I've learned a lot from actually working outside, which is not normally something I do. My best advice to people would be to get out in the garden, get out in the country and have a go.
When I arrived this morning, I think I was a bit shocked at the extent of the building. But there's some very nice qualities to it. The thing that overwhelms me here is that we're looking at least 1,000 years of history. The position that's been chosen for us today is not a particularly easy one. We're looking down on the property, and that gives rise to all the massive greenery that's behind the house. Greens are a problem for watercolourists because greens tend to be comprised of mixtures with yellow in. It's quite difficult to mix adequately dark greens. I think the main concern for me would be whether I can make an adequate completion of it in the time that's available.
Come to annoy you.
Oh, good.
Wait, where's your sky? Excuse me, this man, every time he's done a painting in this series, he's done the most wonderful, moody, spectacular skies. There is now a painting without a sky at all. Explain yourself.
They stuck the building in a valley, so the hill is going to be my sky. So it's going to be a green sky today. That's why I'm trying to keep it all loose. And we've got a green sky.
Oh, it's wonderful. Now, you just said that, well, you're going to keep it all loose. I think, to me, you're painting quite differently today from the other 3 occasions. It seems much looser altogether, much less constructed.
We're further back, and the house, therefore, then is much more in the landscape. And so, because the house is very, very sort of architectural, I want to keep it nice and loose and light and translucent to make it just feel as though it's always been there.
Yes.
So that's the reason for that.
It's lovely. It looks like it's almost floating in the green there.
Yes, I'll try and get it stuck down later on.
No, I like it. I like it. I like it floating.
Oh, good.
Oh, Ray. Hiya. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Yep.
Now, you've got a beautiful loose effect of the hillside. And again, you've got a very formal building.
I'm going to try and keep the building formal. It's a loose background, lots of detail in there. I don't want to overplay that.
No.
And I want to contrast that against the formality of the building. That's the plan. Whether it'll work or not, I don't know yet.
Every confidence, having seen the previous work. Talking about that building again, you're absolutely on a level with it here, but you're not on the ground, so it's quite a difficult angle to paint from.
Absolutely. It remains the main problem. It's still going to be a big challenge.
I think I'll slip away now and leave you to it. Hello, Steve.
Hello.
Gosh, you all paint so differently.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
Now, you like glazes and building
Yes,
up
indeed,
and tonal
yeah,
washes,
yeah.
and so you started off with that. What have you used on that tonal wash there, the main one?
The soft glaze was, I started with the base mix of Aurelian and Viridian, which gave me a rather kind of luminous, horrible green. But then into that, I've got the option of feeding something like burnt sienna or crimson alizarin to warm it up in different directions to create more organic greens that will work in the landscape.
Wonderful. Yeah. Now, you've got those dark greens right at the back.
It's a problem.
It's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, because there's not a lot of gap between the different tones to sink it back into the distance, but
you'll manage.
We'll wrestle with that. You'll do a bit of scratching out here and there.
Oh, of course. Yes, right. Good. The first of our 2 guest judges today is the artist and designer David Gentleman. David, before we talk about painting specifically, what's the most challenging job you've ever had to accomplish?
Well, I think it might have been the mural on the Underground at Charing Cross, which is very different from watercolours. It's big and black and heavy and a lot of things to fit in. But I think that probably if the painting media, if I had to choose between one or other, it might well be watercolours that I'd choose.
Well, you know what my next question is, why?
Because it's quick and fresh. You don't have time to make mistakes. It's very precise. People sometimes say it's a difficult medium.
Some people are quite sort of snooty about watercolour painting, aren't they? They think that oils are grander, but that's not necessarily the case at all, is it?
No, I think that artists are grander. I think that watercolour is rather like chamber music, a string quartet as against a full orchestra. Certainly it's got a narrow tonal range. It's not as the darks in watercolour aren't as deep as they would be in oil painting. But it's used vigorously. There's nothing to be ashamed of in watercolour.
That's a lovely analogy. We've got 3 watercolourists today, as you know. How challenging a scene is it for them to paint today?
Well, I think they've been set quite a difficult task. A very detailed building against a big chunk of landscape as well, which in a way are calling for 2 different techniques. Because if you're trying to wonder how to deal with the white window bars and also the big sweep of the trees and the hills, I'd need to think very carefully about how to do this.
So you've had a chance to look at the fairly early stages of how they're getting on. How do you think they're coping with it so far? Let's start with Peter.
Well, I'm amazed at the bravery with which he's embarked on these big washes. I'll be interested to see how those develop as the afternoon wears on.
And in the middle we've got Ray.
It's interesting. Ray's done quite a lot of careful drawing in pencil in the middle, and the trees behind it are painted in a very different way, quite a painterly way of tackling the foliage on the hillside.
Yes. What about Steve?
Well, Steve is working in a very thin, transparent wash, a kind of glaze over a delicate pencil drawing. And at this stage, there are no problems. I would be interested to see what happens when he begins painting in the darker parts of it, the
Yes.
foliage and the trees behind him.
As with so many watercolour challenges, you sit 3 painters down in front of the same subject, and out of that come 3 entirely different pictures, even compositions sometimes. It's very exciting.
Very lucky you do.
Yes, I think I've been very lucky. Well, it's going to be very interesting and very exciting today, and we look forward to your final judgment at the end of the day. Thank you. It seems the perfect opportunity to say, half-time, gentlemen, please. 2 hours down, 2 to go.
Oh, good.
Good.
What,
Well,
2
that's
hours?
nice to hear. Well, yes, that's not so bad, is it?
No.
Oh, and now there's that. It is so watery, I could eat it. You really are going for that really soft.
That was the idea today. That was the idea today. And try and make the everything sort of connect together as a painting, as opposed to just focusing on one thing. You know, it's a whole as opposed to an individual subject.
Right. This is really more how you like to paint, more freely than...
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's not as tight as I've been painting up to now.
Yes.
Maybe I'm more relaxed.
Good.
Oh,
I like to think that's true.
be nice, wouldn't it?
You relaxed, Ray?
Yeah, I am at the moment, Anna, thanks. Yes.
Good. Oh, it's looking lovely too. Now, you've cast some very strong shadows on the side of the wing, as it were, there.
Yeah.
Now, when the sun's in, when the sun's out, what do you do about that? Do you sketch first?
No, I don't tend to sketch much. I go by what I see at the time. The sun popped out and created quite a nice shadow, so I put that straight in.
I love the way you've used that pink, that sort of pinky brown, ambery colour of the building, and that's added since I saw it last in the trees.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of colour, and I brought that into the painting just to create a bit of harmony with the building.
Yeah.
To pick the colours out, yeah.
It's lovely.
Thanks.
Oh, how are you doing, Steve?
Well, I'm just getting rid of the problem of the greens or the various trees and so on. And once I've established that, then I shall get cracking on the house. And when that's finished, I shall put in the appropriate shadows.
Oh, you make it sound so easy.
Yeah.
Now, you very much like to paint a mood, to capture a mood.
That's right, yeah.
What are you aiming for today, finally?
If I was given a choice, I'd come back and paint this early evening, I think.
Why?
And, well, this has been here a long time. It's a worn building, so I like to exploit that. And there's a sense of antiquity in this valley, which I think evening suits as well.
Fair
so,
enough.
like that.
Lovely. I stand here beside Steve, telling you that it's half-time, that only one person is going to win today. Who's it going to be? Because it's a big grand final. Come back after the break to find out.
I'm Martin Skinner. I own my own business. I give it 110% effort. I expect my staff to do the same.
Becky, what's this?
Europe?
Commitment, drive, determination.
Now, what's happening there at the beginning of next year? Anybody?
I'm harsh, but I'm firm.
The single European currency, the euro. It starts on the 1st of January 1999, which is less than 4 months away. There's 11 countries around Europe that are going to be using it. We're not one of them, but that doesn't mean we don't have to be ready, does it? Mark!
My bark's a little worse than my bite.
Perfect planning prevents pathetic performance.
Keep ahead of the game. Reply to this letter and find out how the euro will affect your business.
For the last 6 weeks, I've been reducing Hugo's cholesterol intake with So Good.
Thanks, Picky.
Why do I bother?
So good, so healthy, so try it.
If you love a good read, you'll love Yours magazine. It's jam-packed with good stuff. So pick up a copy of Yours magazine, just 80p every month.
Want a low-cost loan at your convenience? Whatever you want 800 to £15,000 for, call Lombard Direct on 0800 2 15,000.
Our rates reflect your personal circumstances and our typical APR is just 13.9%.
I've just got us a great deal on a loan.
For an unsecured personal loan of 800 to £15,000, just call Lombard Direct now on 0800 2 15,000.
Every Saturday until the end of the year, cable and wireless phone customers will pay no more than 50p for a UK long-distance call. However long it lasts. To join our phone service, free call 0500 500 500 now.
Welcome back to the grand final of Watercolour Challenge. Our three painters have set up their easels in Stoner Park in Oxfordshire. So let's see how their paintings are coming on.
What I'm attempting to do is to unite the painting in terms of tones. It's all about trying to create balance so that I can go back at a later stage and start deciding on how far I need to take the picture. I think the analogy of plate spinning, the old guy who's trying to keep one plate up while he goes and does another, is very, very good for what's going on at the moment. I'm trying to keep things wet and loose and translucent and keep paint moving around. I sincerely hope that none of the plates will be smashed.
I'm sort of dotting around the building. As I do one piece, I realise something else wants attending to. The background, I think, is probably almost there. I've got to do a lot more work to this foreground and create a sense of the elevation that we're working from. I had a chance to look at Steve's and Pete's work. Got stiff competition today, I must say.
It's not progressing too well at the moment, in that I would like to have finished all the greenery and foliage in the background by now. What particularly interests me is the way that light transforms objects. We're looking at the one house, but it's say 4 or 5 different subjects during the course of this day. As the light has gone round, the shadows have changed. I think if I capture a bit of that transitory quality that the subject has at the end of the day, I should be relatively pleased.
It's time now to introduce our second guest judge today. He's the theatre critic and broadcaster Sheridan Morley.
Hello. Hi.
Thank you for coming today. It's a very important day for us, Sheridan. Now, let's start with Stoner first of all, because this is where you grew up.
I'm thrilled to be back. I was a child in Henley after the war, and this was the big house. We used to come here for tea parties, and I think my first girlfriend was one of the family. It was an amazing time in Henley because a lot of actors had come to live there in the war because studios are not far away. So this little area around Henley is alive with artists, actors, painters, writers.
Absolutely true. Now, painting. You're not a painter, but you're a collector, and you're interested in the arts.
I was very lucky. I did the first biography of Noel Coward, and he really got me into painting because he was a painter, amateur painter, rather like Churchill. He was a Sunday painter, and he gave me one, and there was a note on the back saying, "This comes from my touch and go-ga period." And then his great friend Graham Payne was painting one day, and Noel came in and said, "It's all you ever think about, Monet, Monet, Monet." And he was a very funny painter, and he never really sold in his lifetime, but I've got 2 or 3 of his, watercolours, landscapes. Yes. And then I got interested in watercolours because of that, and then I began collecting, and I've been collecting basically Henley-on-Thames watercolours all my life, and I just love it.
We've got 3 people painting here today, as you know. What are you going to be looking for?
I'm looking for mood and for feeling.
I think we can probably produce that for you today.
I look
Thank you
forward
very
to it.
much.
Thank you.
Well, time's running out for our finalists. Ray and Peter, it falls to me to have to tell you that your time is up, I'm afraid. I have to ask you to stop painting and please to put your brushes down. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, would you follow me, please, and come and have a look at all these paintings? And can we start with Peter? David.
Well, I've watched this one developing with interest. I think it's a rather visionary, romantic scene now with courageous, even dangerous move almost at the last minute to produce a kind of dark haze round the light picture in the middle.
Good. Sheridan?
I think it's very impressive. I'm not entirely sure that the mount helps all the time, but it's very good to see it like that.
Right. Let's go and have a look at Ray's. What do you feel about that, David?
Well, I'm very impressed with the way that the perspective is fairly confidently and yet lightly suggested.
I think it's the most characteristic. I think I would know it was Stoner wherever I saw that. It is the most identifiably immediate.
Good. And let's go and have a look at Steve's, please. Can we have your opinion on that, David?
Well, Steve's is the one that seems to me to have developed most strikingly, particularly very late on in the afternoon when I thought that it was too late for a transformation to take place. I very much like the depth of tone of the whole scene.
It does change the perspective of the house to have so much of the landscape, and I think it's also a very different view because you do get the house in its setting, and the trees are evidently much more powerful there than in the others.
That's right.
Good, well, thank you very much. And now may I take you away for a more private chat? Well, we've had quite a lot of discussion, but now I'd quite like to force you to a few final words on each painting. Sheridan, can I start with you and Peter's picture?
Well, I know we're reviewing the painting and not the mount, but the use of that mount, which I know is his tradition, does change the perspective. And I think on this occasion it perhaps doesn't help that to cut off and go in for the close-up, if you like, rather than the wide view, I think does affect the way we look at this entire setting, that it's very powerful.
Good.
And I agree, but I thought that he's a very accomplished master of the wash and the technique of watercolour anyway. I think he's an admirable performer.
Good. What about Ray's picture?
It's a very immediate picture. It is in a way the most identifiable of all of them, and it's very, very technically strong.
Very beautifully drawn, and also a nice sense of shadow as the afternoon developed. It's not just an architectural skeleton, it's a good bit of drawing. In a way, I wish the drawing had maybe extended more into the foliage and the landscape behind it, because they're not as fully realised as the building itself.
Right. And finally, Steve.
A great sense of the Thames Valley. You get a real sense of the setting, you get the hillside, you get the house in its context, and I think tremendously vibrant.
Yeah, lovely deep colours, and slightly more loosely handled the way the colours were drawn with the brush, maybe, than either of the others. And also a sense that this artist had something in reserve. One felt that there were more pictures in him waiting to come out than just this one we're looking at. In a way, what this series is about, the thing that matters is that painting or drawing makes whoever you are, it makes you look much harder and more intensely at the world around you.
Good, thank you. Well, all that now remains is to choose the winner. Well, nobody said it was going to be easy, and it hasn't been. But my two guest judges have come to a decision, and I would like to announce the winner. But before I do, I've said many times on Watercolour Challenge, and I'd like to say it again, that there have never been any losers on this series. Everybody's a winner. And for the two runners-up today, whoever they are, for each of them, the prize will be a very swanky, arty weekend in London for two. And the main prize winner will receive a very super painting holiday for two in the New Forest. And the winner is Steve. Congratulations, Steve. Really, really well done. And Ray, congratulations to you too.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
Peter, many congratulations. Well, we'd like to offer our thanks to everyone, all the artists who've taken part in the series of Watercolour Challenge. We have seen the most super work over the series, and we like to think that you have watched with pleasure as well. I'd also like to thank our guest artists, our professional artists during the series, Annette Kane, Wendy Corey and Granville Danny Clark. And I like to think also that perhaps some of you at home will be tempted from having watched the series to pick up a paintbrush and have a go yourself. Finally, from all of us at Watercolour Challenge, goodbye.
Winning today was a little bit stunning, I must admit. I shall need time to come to terms with it, I think. I think the most positive thing that I've learned is seeing other people's approaches, and I would seek to emulate that. As far as my future painting is concerned, I think that I'll look for more challenging subjects than I've looked at before. I think that everybody should have a go.